It happens in places that look harmless. A man wakes up, checks his phone for 2 minutes, answers one email, watches one short video, says yes to one meeting he doesn't need to attend, and suddenly 10 years are gone. He still calls himself busy. He still says he's planning to live. But what if busyness is just the most socially acceptable form of self-destruction? A Roman philosopher saw this trap 2,000 years ago with terrifying clarity. But first, let me tell you why this matters more today than ever. Rome was loud, not metaphorically, physically loud. Carts grinding over stone, politicians shouting in the forum, slaves running messages, merchants bargaining, crowds demanding spectacle. And in the middle of that chaos lived Seneca, statesman, playwright, advisor to emperors, one of the richest men in the Roman world, and a man who knew what it meant to be swallowed by public life. He was not writing from a mountain cave. He wasn't detached from power. He lived inside the machine. He knew ambition. He knew political danger. He knew luxury. He knew distraction before distraction had Wi-Fi. And then he wrote something so sharp, it still cuts through modern life like a blade. We are not given a short life, but we make it short, and we are not ill-supplied but wasteful of it. That line comes from Seneca's essay on the shortness of life, and it's not comforting. It's accusatory. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't say life is cruel because time is limited. It says something much harder to accept. Most people do not lose their lives, they spend them badly. That's the scandal at the center of Stoic philosophy, not that death comes for all of us. Everyone knows that. The scandal is that most people begin dying long before death arrives because they never truly possess their own time. And here's what makes Seneca dangerous in the best way. He strips away your excuses. You can't hide behind, "I'm overwhelmed." You can't hide behind, "I'm waiting for the right moment." You can't even hide behind success. In fact, Seneca thought a person could become highly accomplished and still completely waste their life. That's a hard claim, maybe even a controversial one. But ask yourself, if your days are filled and your soul is empty, are you living or merely being used? What he wrote next changed everything. Seneca doesn't begin with death, he begins with theft. It is not that we have a short space of time, but that we waste much of it. Notice the precision. He doesn't say time passes quickly, he says we waste it. That means agency, responsibility, choice. And that's exactly why this idea is so uncomfortable. Because if time is being wasted, then somebody is doing the wasting. Sometimes it's other people. More often, it's you. Seneca lists the thieves of life with almost modern accuracy: pointless busyness, social obligations, vanity, greed, endless planning, living for status, living for tomorrow. Replace Roman banquets with networking events. Replace senators with corporate calendars. Replace gossip in the forum with algorithmic feeds. The machinery changed. The surrender didn't. And here's where most people get it wrong. They think wasting time means doing nothing. Seneca thought the opposite. Some of the greatest wasters of life are hyperactive. They are always responding, attending, optimizing, hustling, scheduling, posting, acquiring. They confuse movement with meaning. That might be the most relevant insight in all of ancient wisdom for the modern world. You can spend 12 hours being productive and still never touch what matters. You can build a life everyone envies and secretly feel that none of it belongs to you. You can be so accessible to everyone else that you become inaccessible to yourself. Seneca's point is not anti-work, it's anti-fragmentation. Stoic philosophy doesn't tell you to avoid responsibility. It tells you to stop donating your inner life to triviality. There's a difference. And now, a surprising fact: your attention is more monetized today than land was in Seneca's Rome. Entire industries are built on one goal: to keep you from owning your own mind. Seneca never saw a smartphone, but he understood the principle perfectly. If someone can direct your attention at will, they can quietly consume your life in pieces too small to notice. So the real question isn't, am I busy? It's, who benefits from my busyness? But there's something even more shocking in Seneca's argument. He says people don't merely waste time, they defend the very habits that are destroying them. Seneca sharpens the knife with another line: you act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. That is devastating. In fear, you remember you're fragile. In desire, you behave as if you have forever. You panic over small losses as if life is slipping away, then casually postpone what matters most as if life has no end. You know death is real, but you schedule your deepest values for later. Later I'll repair that relationship. Later I'll read the difficult books. Later I'll start living by principle instead of impulse. Later I'll become who I say I want to be. This is where Stoic thought becomes brutally practical. Seneca is forcing you to see that procrastination is not laziness. It is a philosophy of life, a bad one. It is the hidden belief that your real life can be deferred without cost. But every deferral has a cost. Every not now becomes a habit. And habits harden into identity. Here's the controversial statement. Most people do not need better time management. They need more courage. Because the reason people waste time is often not disorganization, it's avoidance. They avoid silence because silence reveals dissatisfaction. They avoid stillness because stillness raises the question they don't want to answer. If I stopped running, would I even like the life I'm living? That will drive comments, and it should, because maybe you disagree. Maybe you think your life is full because the world demands it. Fair. But Seneca would push back and ask, which demands are real? And which have you accepted because they save you from making a harder decision? This is where it gets interesting. Seneca doesn't offer productivity hacks. He offers possession. To live well, in his view, means to reclaim authority over your attention, your values, your hours. Not to control everything, that's impossible. Even Marcus Aurelius, another giant of Stoic philosophy, knew that external events remain outside us, but our use of the present moment, that's still ours to govern. So what does transformation actually look like? It starts with subtraction, one less empty obligation, one less reflexive yes, one less hour surrendered to low-grade stimulation. It continues with examination. At the end of the day, ask, what did I do that mattered? What pulled me away from myself? What did I pursue as if I would live forever? This is modern Stoicism at its best. Not cosplay, not aesthetic Roman quotes over moody music, but disciplined honesty about where your life is going. And once you start seeing time this way, something changes. Busyness stops looking impressive. It starts looking expensive. Seneca then delivers the line that reveals the heart of his philosophy. While we are postponing, life speeds by. Read that again in your mind. Not life will speed by. Not one day you'll notice time passing. No, while you postpone, it is already happening. Delay is not neutral. Delay is motion in one direction only. This is the revelation. Most people imagine life as something that begins after preparation, after the degree, after the promotion, after the move, after the kids are older, after the money is stable, after the stress calms down. But Seneca says that is the trap. If life is always waiting on a future arrangement, then life never actually starts. And this is where all the pieces connect. The problem is not merely that you're distracted. The deeper problem is that distraction gives you the illusion of participation while keeping you absent from your own existence. You think because you're occupied, you're engaged. Because you're informed, you're wise. Because you're stimulated, you're alive. But are you? That question is the emotional center of Seneca's philosophy. Because for him, a life is not measured by duration alone. It's measured by presence, by clarity, by whether you inhabited your own days or rented them out to nonsense. Here's another line from Seneca that completes the picture. No person hands out their money to passers-by, but to how many do each of us hand out our lives? That's the tragedy. People guard their finances with intensity. They compare prices, negotiate salaries, track investments, but their hours, their attention, their peace, those they scatter carelessly to every interruption, every trend, every demand dressed up as urgency, every invitation they don't want to accept but fear declining. Imagine treating money the way most people treat time, throwing bills out the window because someone knocked, lending it to strangers because they seemed persuasive, spending it on things you don't value because saying no felt awkward. It sounds absurd. Yet that's exactly how many people live. And this is the Stoic reversal. Death is not what makes life frightening. Unconscious living is. A short life lived deliberately may be fuller than a long life spent in fragmentation. Seneca is not worshipping efficiency. He is defending aliveness. That's why ancient wisdom still hits with such force. It names what modern life hides. The real poverty is not having too little time. It is being unable to recognize when enough time is being drained from you. The real emergency is not your schedule, it is your forgetfulness. So ask yourself, if Seneca examined your last 7 days, would he call them lived or merely spent? Would he see a person building a life or a person postponing one? That question should unsettle you. Good, it's supposed to. Because the aha moment in Seneca is not gentle. It's this: your life is not being stolen in one dramatic event. It is being negotiated away minute by minute through unexamined permission. Every time you say, "This doesn't matter, but I'll do it anyway," you are making a trade. Every time you abandon what is essential for what is merely urgent, you are making a trade. Every time you postpone reflection, courage, stillness, truth, you are making a trade. And eventually the bill comes due. Think back to that man at the beginning, the one who lost 10 years in small, harmless pieces. That story is disturbing for one reason: it rarely looks tragic while it's happening. Most wasted lives don't collapse, they drift. They remain functional, impressive even. That's what makes them dangerous. Seneca's warning is not for failures, it's for everyone, especially the competent, especially the admired, especially the people who can stay busy enough to never confront themselves. So here's the challenge. For the next 7 days, track your time, but not in the usual self-improvement way. Don't just ask where your hours went. Ask 3 harder questions at the end of each day. What gave me life? What drained it? What did I do simply because I lacked the courage to do otherwise? Then make one Stoic cut. Just one. Decline one unnecessary obligation. Remove one source of noise. Reclaim 1 hour and spend it on something worthy of a finite life. Reading, walking, thinking, writing, silence, real conversation. That may sound small. It isn't, because a life is not usually transformed by grand declarations. It is transformed by repeated acts of refusal. Refusal to drift. Refusal to postpone. Refusal to hand your mind over to whatever shouts the loudest. If this shifted something in your thinking, subscribe. We go deeper every week. And drop your interpretation in the comments. What wastes the most life today? Work, entertainment, anxiety, or the inability to say no? Most people will spend their entire lives avoiding this truth. Will you? Your life is what you refuse to waste.